Just as in the blanket pattern, I used a 9mm crochet hook, Bernat Forever Fleece yarn. It's a super bulky 6-weight yarn in white noise, coal, and chamomile. I made this pillow cover from the sample that I used for the tutorial for the blanket pattern, so please don't get confused. I made the back panel for this pillow cover in a mini basket weave pattern, and I think it really mimics the texture on the front of the pillow and on the blanket.
Chained 31, you're going to chain 121 if you're making it from my pattern. Now from the second chain from the hook, 1, 2, turn it over and find your back bump. This is really important so that the bottom comes out looking almost identical to the top when you're finished, the bottom edge and the top edge, and complete a single crochet. Go to your next stitch, find your back bump. It's always going to be that horizontal line. Go into that, pull your yarn through. You have 2 loops, just make a single crochet. You're going to do that all the way across. Just going to give you a nice foundation stitch. If you decide you don't want any border at all, the top and the bottom edge will have a nice finished look. I tried many different finishes. I tried fringe. I didn't care for it at all. I tried tassels. That just didn't do it for me. I tried a pom-pom border. I didn't care for that. It just called for a really simple border, so I used a moss stitch border. I did do something a little different with the very first round so that it looked equally nice on the back as the front, and it gave me a nice even first round of the border. And then after that, it's just a simple moss stitch. Very, very simple. So continue along. See, you're going to have a very nice edge. And I'll meet you at the end.
Right. At the end of your first row, you have a nice foundation row. You went into the back bump of every chain, and you should have 60. 120 single crochet. And now chain 3, 2, 3, and turn. Skip that very first stitch where your chain is coming from and go into the next stitch with a double crochet, yarn over, go into that stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. Chain 1, and now you're going to skip this next stitch. Double crochet, they're all double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 stitch. That's the pattern all the way down, and that's what gives you that open mesh look. When you finish your row, you should have 60 of these openings. And as I said, it's critically important that you have the same number of those openings in every single row. Make sure you're skipping one and make sure you're chaining one. That's what gives you the mesh stitch. Always chain one. I don't even stop my stitch until I've made that chain. Skip one. I just say double crochet, chain one. It's like all one stitch. All right, continue. I'll meet you at the end of the row. All right, at the end of row 2, which is going to be the first row of this mesh stitch pattern, you should have 60 of these openings. That's where your chains will be woven through. Now every color will have 6 rows of this mesh stitch, and then you'll switch to the next color. 6 rows of that, and I believe I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you will have 4 sections of 6 rows for each color. At the end of each row, you're going to chain 3,
It's very, very simple now. This is so easy. Actually, the blanket looks great just as a mesh stitch. It looks really pretty in these colors. I just really wanted to do a plaid blanket. I've been wanting to do one for a while, and I could not believe how simple it is. And I'm thrilled with how it turned out. So you're going to skip a stitch, and you're just going to go right into this double crochet, the top of that double crochet with a double crochet. That counted as a double crochet in a chain one. Make sure you do your chain one. Easy to forget that. Just keep, when you have made a few stitches, just do a visual check. Make sure you have that gap. Double crochet, chain one. You're skipping the chain space. Crochet, chain one. See how easy it is now? You're just going right above that double crochet from the previous row and chain one. And there is your mesh stitch. So do 6 rows of this, which will actually be your 7th row. That was your first row. 6 rows of this mesh stitch. Make sure that you have 60 openings if you're following my pattern, or however many you started with if you decided to make it wider or narrower. And I'll meet you at the end of the 6th row of my mesh pattern, or the 7th row of the just a note. At the end of this row where you started off with a chain 3, come into that second chain. That's going to leave your gap there with your double crochet. Come into the whole stitch, the whole chain there with your double crochet, and that still leaves you with that opening, and chain 3 and continue on. All right, I finished my 6th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to change colors now. Good time to count. Make sure you still have 60 of your openings. All right, so go through your second chain of your chain 3. We're starting with you. Starting a double crochet, come through the first 2 loops, and then drop your color A. Find my scissors. I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. Leave yourself a good sized tail. Grab your color B. Just give it a loop. Again, a good sized tail. Pull through the last 2 loops. I like to pull my tail over, and I like to include the tail from my new color in that first chain. So that was chain 1, 2, 3, and we are just going to continue on. I do like to go ahead and tie my tails together, and they're very easy to weave in later, very easy. Okay, you have 3 chains. Looks a little weird because you included that tail in there, but it does really help lock it in. It's just a little bit thicker than normal. All right, same thing. Make sure you're going into that next double crochet. Don't skip any. Chain 1. Always, always, always chain 1. This is the softest yarn, and for some reason this color coal seems even softer than most of them. Balsam also is super, super soft. They all are, though. They feel like the inside of a really soft sweatshirt. This Forever Fleece, I can see why they call it that. it's hard to go back to other yarns after working with this. You can see from my other patterns that I really like working with chunky yarns. It's easy on my hands, works up quickly. And since I discovered the Forever Fleece, it's just my favorite. My next project, I haven't decided what it's going to be, but it will be in a 4-weight yarn. I found some 4-weight yarn in colors that I absolutely love, and I haven't decided what I'm going to make with it yet. I think I might make a sweater or a top. I'm not sure. Make sure you're doing your chains, and you can tell as long as you have your gaps. This first row, very, very important to make sure you have the correct count from all your gaps there. It's easy to forget this last chain. All right, you don't want to go into that third one because that's your gap. The second one. Double crochet, chain 3, turn, and continue on with your pattern. So 6 rows of color B, whatever color you chose, and then do your same color change for color C for 6 rows, and then back to color A. 4 sections of color A, 4 sections of color B, 4 sections of color C, and I ended up on color C. And when we come back, we're going to make our chains to weave through. Okay, I'm pretending that I'm on my last row. I'm just making a sample. It's very, very pretty in just this mesh stitch. If you want to finish here, either way, this is how we finish the last row. I'm going to chain 1, turn, just to make it look as close to the first foundation row as we can. You're going to go in the back loop only of every stitch with a single crochet, starting with that very first one, including the chain. There's your chain, single crochet. It also, when you go to make your border, it gives you a nice edge to work with, if you choose to make a border. You don't have to. And go all the way across like that. And when you get to the end, just fasten off by chaining 1 and cutting your yarn and pulling it tight. And I will meet you when we're ready to work with our chains. Okay, now I'm ready to weave in chains. You need 5 chains for each block. And just like we had 4 of these sections of each color, you're going to have 4 sections of 5 of the chains. So 5 times 4 is 20. So you need 20 chains of each color, but you're only going to use 5 at a time. That's going to create your plaid. And again, I just have a sample size. I'm going to show you the first 2 rows. It's just like weaving. I don't know if when you were little you had a set where you could weave pot holders, you know, a little loom. It's just like that. In and out, alternate over and under. So I'm going to take my needle. You will have a lot of ends to weave in. I went ahead and took the opportunity to weave in the ends that I had loose before I started this. So just start here So you just go ahead and make yourself a knot here. You're going to weave that in. You're going to have a lot of ends to weave in, but you just weave it right into the chain and back down, and they'll stay put. Make your knot really close. Now, get the other end. I took a lot of time when I first started doing this to make sure the chains were all flat and going this way. And after I got about halfway through, I mean, I took a lot of time to do that. I found out it didn't really matter. It didn't look any different. So if you want to, go ahead, but you don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to start by going under, over, under, and just pull it right along. Don't worry if that's loose, because you're going to come back and weave that in and under. It'll be just fine. So you're going to have a long way to go. I did this on my dining room table. It made it easier. Just make sure that you're following that over and under pattern. And then in the next row, you'll do the opposite. Wherever you went over on this row, you'll go under in the next. Oops, you know what? I think I caught. You don't want to go into any stitch. All right, I'm going over, under, over this one, under, over, under, go through. It did make it shrink up a lot. I found that if I made my chains about 142 chains, it worked out really well. Then I thought, well, maybe if I made them longer, it wouldn't shrink up so much. But then they were just too loose. So 142 chains for me worked out perfectly. Might be different for you. When you get to the other end, you can start at the top or bottom, it doesn't matter. Just try to keep it in this area. Just at the bottom of your edge here. That tail through. Come back through. Like I said, you're just going to kind of come in and out of your chain 2 or 3 times. Come back through. Try to hide it as much as you can, but you're also going to be coming back with a border, maybe, if you want to. You don't have to. You also don't have to do this part. It looks really pretty in just the mesh stitch. Okay. That way you're already done with this one. Get it close, not too close. And just kind of pull on it. Don't worry if it's not exact, it'll all even out. All right. Just start off the next one. I'm sure this makes perfect sense to you. Just make sure when you make your first chain that it's probably a good inch or more longer than your blanket, and then make sure that all the other chains are exactly the same length, so that they're just identical. Again, you can go ahead and weave in this one as well, and you won't have to do it later. I wasn't that smart. I was in a big hurry to look at my plaid starting to form. It was very exciting. I really like this blanket a lot, and I cannot believe how easy it was. It was fun to make. This one's a keeper. All right, and go on the other end, and you'll know pretty quickly when you get to the other color if you messed up your pattern. Now I went under here, so I want to go over here and under and over. And when I get to the color B, I'll be able to see very quickly if I did it correctly. Under and over and under. Kind of tug on it a little bit, stretch it out, and you can see that it is correct because that one was over and this one was under. So just continue that. It'll take you a while. It took me a couple of days because I had other things to do in between, and I just took breaks. But if you do it all at one sitting, it won't take you long at all. And once you have that all done and you have your ends all woven in, I'll meet you back here if you want to make the border. Or if you don't want to do the chains, but you do want to make the border, I'll meet you back here for the border. 20 lumbar pillow form, and I started with a chain of 31. All right, so we're going to join in a corner. Find a corner. I have my slip knot, the slip stitch. Let's chain one there. Let's go in with a single crochet, chain two, because this is a corner. Oops, so used to doing the double crochets, and a single crochet and chain one. There's your corner. I had that in the camera, sorry. Now, here's where we do things a little differently. Wherever there's a stitch here, we're going to go behind. And make your single crochet. And a chain one. And go to your next one. Behind. This is just a much, much easier way to get that first round going. Chain one, go behind, single crochet, chain one. And it looks really nice from the back. So that's what's different. I'll take you down to the corner. Make sure you're making your chain one. Going back, make sure you have that gap of your chain one. Behind, bring it up, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one. Bring this in front so that it doesn't get wrapped around the back there. Single crochet, chain one, around the back, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one. I tried lots of different things, and this is what I found worked best for that first round. After the first round, we'll just go back to working in the chains. In the front, single crochet, chain one, chain one. Bottom row, or our very first row where we started, the stitches are going to be a little bit tight. So that's the most difficult row. Let's go ahead and work into this to finish out the edge. Chain one. Just drop my needle. Okay, come into this corner. It's really tight. If you need to, use a smaller hook. Get in there. Single crochet, chain two because it's a corner. Back into that same corner, single crochet, and then chain one. Crochet, chain one. Don't go into that same stitch. Go into the next stitch. Come behind. Single crochet, chain one. This bottom row is pretty tight. You might want to use a smaller hook just for this row. So don't go into that same stitch, but go into this next one and behind. I said the rest of the rounds are going to be super easy, so don't go into that one. Go into the next one and behind. Single crochet and chain one. It'll all work out. So continue on. When you get to your corner, it's going to be that single crochet, chain two, single crochet, and then chain one, and come around the corner. And then you're going to start coming into or behind your edge stitches, and then a single crochet, chain one, come behind, single crochet, chain one, and so on. And I'll meet you when we get back up to the first corner. All right, we're back on this top row. It's going to be the same thing as the bottom row. The stitches are looser on the top, so it's a bit easier. So don't go into that same stitch, go into the next one and behind. Single crochet, chain one. Let's go ahead into this one and behind, single crochet and chain one. And we are going to connect right to that first stitch with a slip stitch. Actually, we're going to finish that off with our color B. So go ahead and cut nice long tail for weaving. Grab your color B, and now just finish off with a slip stitch. Just pull it right through. Chain one with the tail in there. It helps to lock that stitch in. All right, now in that corner where we had the chain two, you're going to single crochet, chain two, single crochet, chain one, because we're turning the corner. And now wherever you have a chain, that's where you're going to work your single crochet and a chain one. It gets really easy now. Into the chain, single crochet, chain one. All the way around, single crochet into that chain. That means you go under. Don't go in the stitch, go under. Single crochet, chain one. Single crochet, chain one. I'm going to go all the way around with color B. And I'm going to do color C, and I want to end up with color A. That's just how I just kept working it, and that's how it looked really good to me. I want to show you how the back ends up looking now. It pushes this line up, and it just ends up looking very nice. It looks cute. Same thing happened up here on this top row. And it goes down. It just was a nice, neat finish, I felt like. Okay, so just go all the way around. When you hit a corner, single crochet, chain two, and then a single crochet in the same corner, chain one, and same thing. Every chain space gets a single crochet and then a chain one. Keep going. I'll meet you back here when we change color. Well, that round went really, really quickly. Most important thing is to remember to go into the chain and to make a chain after each single crochet, because that's what makes it a moss stitch. Here's another one. Go in there, chain one, and then we're going to meet up with our very first stitch here. Oops, going to change color. We can cut this, leave yourself a nice long tail, weaving in. I could have left that even longer. And move to your color C. For this, we'll go back to color A, and that'll be the final row for the way that I did it. All right, bring this all the way through. slip stitch, chain one with the tail included, drop the tail, let's see, okay, now we're back to, this is our corner, single crochet, chain two, single crochet, chain one. Every chain space gets a single crochet now, and a chain one into the chain space. So fast and easy. Just make sure that you remember to make the chain one. Even when I was making the full-size blanket, I couldn't believe how fast this went, that I was already around to the first corner. All right, continue on. Doesn't get any easier than this. I will meet you back here for our final round. All right, I'm back to my first corner. You can stop here if you like the way it looks with your color C as the final round. I just decided I wanted it to have color A as the final color. This is how it's looking on the back. It looks really pretty. I like it. So I am going to, if you want to stop now, just join in with your first stitch of that corner and fasten off. I would do an invisible join. If you want to see how to do that, you can see how I finish my final row. But I am going to switch over to color A, white noise. Whatever your color A is, that's what you want to do. And I'm going to pull it through to complete a slip stitch and chain one with the tail included. All right, let's go in here with a single crochet, chain two, single crochet, and a chain one. Same thing all the way around. Remember to go in the chain space and a chain one. That's what makes the moss stitch, or the linen stitch as they call it. It's a nice simple border, but by including all the colors that you used in the blanket, I think it just gives it a nice balance. How pretty that is. That's pretty on the back as well. All right. I will meet you when we come back to this corner to do an invisible join, and we will be finished. All right, I'm back to the beginning. I'm going to join in with that very first stitch. Now, to make an invisible join, I'm going to leave myself a nice long tail. See if I can find one of my needles. I heard one fall on the floor a little while ago. I think I put one back in. All right, found it. It was right on the floor where I heard it fall. Okay, cut my yarn, just pull it through very gently. Get your needle. Invisible joint. You don't have to do it, it just makes it invisible. You can't see where you joined. It looks really nice. Okay, so you see where it's coming out of that stitch. We're going to go back into that in a minute. We're going to skip this stitch. Let's see if I can get the glare off of here for you. We're going to skip that stitch. We're going to go into this stitch. Use your needle. Go into the front loop and the back loop. Pull it through very gently. Don't pull tight yet. Okay, you see where that yarn is coming through that stitch? You're going to go back in that stitch and pull it just a little bit more. You're going to go back in that stitch and into that one we skipped, and just into a couple of loops behind there. Pull very, very gently. All you're doing is duplicating that stitch that we skipped. It's hiding now, being replaced by this. And then just weave in your ends. You have all your ends here from joining the rounds. All right, to start the back panel, I used my color A. If you don't have enough of any one of the colors, I would just suggest making it in stripes with all three colors. And the second chain, and I'm going to go in the back bump because that's what I like to do. It's going to give me a nice edge to sew into the seam. We're going to do double crochet in that back bump of the second chain from the hook. So double crochet. And now we're just going to do the same thing all the way across. If you don't know how to find your back bump, find your next chain, turn it over, and it's this horizontal bar. Double crochet. We're going to be making what's called the mini basket stitch. I believe it's also called a rice stitch, which is just a series of front post double crochets and back post double crochets alternating. So go ahead and make double crochets all the way across. All right, I'm at the end of my first row. I just measured it. It's measuring out at 14 inches. You are not going to make a chain, just turn. We're going to do a stacked single crochet, also called a chainless double crochet. It's going to act as a double crochet. A lot of people will just make your single crochet here. We'll do a chain 3, but it leaves a bit of a gap, and you don't want that when you're sewing the seams on the side. Go into the left loop of that single crochet, pull through, and make one more single crochet. And that's going to act as a double crochet. Just thicker, nicer edge for you than a chain. All right, now we're going to go into this double crochet from the previous row, and we're going to push it to the front, push that post to the front, and that's why it's a front post. Double crochet. Pull your yarn up even with your other loops so it doesn't pucker. Pull through the first 2 loops, pull through the second 2 loops for a front post double crochet. Now, in that very next double crochet, you're going to do a back post. So you're actually going to push that post to the back. Bring your yarn through, bring it through, pull it up again, and complete your double crochet. So now you have a front post double crochet, you pushed it to the front, and a back post. You push that post to the back. And we're just going to alternate that all the way across. That was my back post. Make sure you're pulling your loops up even with the other loops. Now I need a back post. Bring your hook through, push that post to the back. Bring your yarn all the way behind that. Bring your loops up. Pull through 2, pull through 2. That's all you're going to do all the way across. Front post, back post, front post, back post. Continue alternating all the way across. I'm just about at the end. I just wanted to show you. I have a front post here. I'm going to do back post. If it helps you, just bring it to the back. Just kind of pop it up there. and work it from the back. It gets easier as we go along. Okay, we have one more front post. All right, be right back. We're going to end on the front post. No chain, just turn. We're going to, in the very first stitch, we're going to do that stacked single crochet again. One single crochet, go into that left loop, and another single crochet, and that acts as your first double crochet of the row. Now, we're going to do the opposite. Here's your front post. Now we want to make it into a back post. That's what's going to make it look like a little basket weave. So we're still alternating. We just started the opposite. Back post. Now there's the back post. Actually, it was a front post. We're going to come through and make a front post. So wherever one is poking out to the front, you're going to bring it to the back. Make it into a back post double crochet. And wherever it's sticking to the back, you're going to pull it to the front and turn it into a front post double crochet. See how it's starting to look like a basket weave? The reason I chose this pattern was because it looks very, very similar. Let me show you. Where we wove in the same color to make a block of the same color, it's going to look very, very similar to that. And that's what the whole back will look like. So again, this one's poking out to the front. So we're going to bring it to the back. And it's just going to look like a woven basket. And a double crochet. Remember to bring those loops up high. Now we have one poking to the back. Don't forget those. It's easy to miss them. And bring it to the front post. Bring those loops up even so they don't pucker. Here's your next one. It's poking out to the front, so you want to bring it around to the back. You loop up even with the others. And that is it. Every time you get to the end, you will not chain. You're just going to turn. You're going to make your stacked single crochet. Make sure you go in that very first stitch. And then continue to alternate. And I will meet you when mine is approximately the same size as the front panel, which would be, I think it was somewhere around 19 inches. Okay, I'm just about finished. My back panel is measuring the same as my front panel. I had to stretch it out a little bit because this particular stitch shrinks it up in the width a little bit. I did want to show you to make sure you're not missing the very last stitch. Do a back post. I don't have a specific number of rows because you just want to make sure that it is the same size as your front panel. I just want to make sure you're not missing this post. This was your very first stacked single crochet. Let's see, I did a back post there. So you want to make sure you're going into that one as well. And that's your last double crochet of each row. So make sure that you're doing that all the way along. Otherwise, it's going to start pulling in on you. All right, I have my right side facing out. It doesn't matter on the back panel. It's identical either side. And I made a nice long loop of yarn that I left open on this end because I'm going to use that to tie my ends together at the corner, just in case I want to undo this to take the cover off and wash it, which is pretty likely. Okay, so it's like that. You still have your loop on there. Certainly not going to get you all the way around, but I don't like having a tremendously long strand to work with. All right, just I'm making this as simple as possible. Right side out, match up your corners, go into both the front loop and the back loop, front loop and the back loop here. Your stitches, if you're like me, are not going to match up exactly, so we're just going to try to find whatever is close to directly across from the other stitch. All right, leave yourself a good long tail here because that's where you're going to tie it. Just in a bow, double bow, if you like, and tuck it inside, and that way you can take it out, unweave everything, and take your pillow cover out. Okay, so we've come through here. Just going to come back through that same side, go under both loops on both sides, front and back. Whoops, there you go. All right, find the next stitches. Like I said, they're not, my front panel has more stitches than my back panel, but that's okay. Doesn't have to be exactly even, and it's going to look just fine. And having the double strands like this, it just looks like part of a stitch. All right, just weave in and out. Super, super simple. When you run out of yarn, you're just going to have to join however you normally join with a knot. I'm going to skip this stitch. Let's see, I just want to show you how it's going to look from the side. It's a nice, neat edge. I'll meet you when I run out of this strand of yarn. Okay, I've made it down to the corner. I did skip a few stitches. Where I could, I skipped a chain instead of a single crochet, but it still looks really nice. It doesn't affect the look of it at all. Keep going around your corner. In and out. You should be used to weaving a lot by now. In and out. But it's really, I mean, how easy is that? Just bringing you around the corner. Round the bend. Let's find the adjacent stitch across the way as best you can. Now, when we get to this side, it's going to look different. Gives it a nice thick seam. I like that. All right. Let's find what's across. Different but the same. See how they're not really stitches, it's the ends of the rows, mostly chains. So let's see. They appear to be about equal. Find your end corner. Try and make sure that you have it lined up to prevent gapping, gaping, gaps. You get the picture. As I said, like that's not a stitch, that's a chain, but just go into it. Go under the thicker part of it. see, it came out there, so I want to go in here, find a corresponding stitch on the other side, and just keep going. Go in the thicker part of it, even if you have to go through part of a stitch, like in between like that, that's fine. You break through. It'll all work out. Just make sure you're not making it too tight so it doesn't pucker. See, it's coming around the corner. It's gonna look really cute. Keep going, and as I said before, I'll meet you when I get to the end of my strand. All right, this time I can use the loose ends, and you'll see why. Before I wanted to leave those at the end so I can tie them together. Now, here's the end of my loop. Okay. Bring this through. Got it all. Bring it through, bring it through. There's the loop at the other end. Put your needle through there. It's magical. There's your original loop. Ta-da! There you go. Now you're ready to continue. Just continue pushing through. Just pull that little knot through. It'll end up hiding in there somewhere. Sorry, my camera got away. I'm almost finished, and I forgot to leave an opening for the pillow. So when you open up your other end, when you want to wash it, this is all you're going to do. Just pull on it, pull it again, unweave it. So I'm going to do that for a few more inches and then pop my pillow cover in there. I think I have enough room. Scrunch my pillow in. I'm going to push that in.
It's fitting very nicely. I just have to go back and sew up that seam around it. I only opened it up maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches at the most. And it fits really, really nicely. I'll take some pictures of it in just a minute.
Okay, I'm back at my beginning corner. This is my first piece. I evened up what I had left of my second strand. And I am simply going to tie it. I was going to tie it in a bow, but I don't need to. Just simply tie it. Don't put it in a knot because you'll regret it later, probably. Take a hook. Just come on into the corner there. Pull that on in. Just tuck it in. Just hide it. Go in another spot. Back up to that corner. Pull it through, pull it through, pull it through. Just hide it. That piece sticking up was my original tail. Just gonna cut that off. It was already woven in. All right. I will show you some pictures of this. I love how it came out. I love this back side. It has so much texture. The pillow form does not show through it, nor does it show through in the front. I think you're really going to like it. Try making that. Tell me what you think. Whoop. show you my mess over there. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up as always. And if you have subscribed, thank you very, very much. And if you haven't subscribed, I wish you would.
And remember, you can find all my free patterns at www.i-crochet.com. Please share anything that you've made at my Instagram account at DEBIC321.